With the holidays right around the corner, it always reminds me of how much my family truly enjoys Thanksgiving. It's a great time for us all to get together. Of course, we eat way too much, but we spend a lot of time in fellowship and as a family sitting around the Thanksgiving table and just talking about all those things we really are thankful for. You know, our health, the fact that we've got man sewing that we get to do creative projects for, and of course, the executioner. The executioner, you say, who's the executioner? Well, this is the executioner. But wait, there's more. Thankful for the executioner? Let me explain a little bit more. This little turkey was our holiday decoration that used to look just like this. Now this little guy right here, he was made by my wife when she was in the 3rd grade. I will not say how many years ago that was. You're welcome. But he has fallen apart over too many holiday meals. So today on Man Sewing, our tutorial is going to be how to make one of these awesome Thanksgiving pineapple centerpieces for your holiday table. Let's get started. Okay, now step 1, drop into the description below and print yourself out a free printable for turkey time. This has got all of the parts and pieces you need, plus the little layout instructions there, but I'm going to walk you through step by step putting the turkey together. You're going to need to cut out 2 of each of these shapes, and even before you do that, what I do is I cut apart the shapes themselves, because each one of these is going to end up on a different piece of felt. I'll be using brown for the turkey body, right, or the body of the head, I should say. We're going to use our red for the wattle. We have black and white for our eyes, and then we have our orange for our beak. 1 of the felt squares is plenty per color is all you need. And most of these we're going to cut both layers at the same time, and you'll be destroying your pattern as you go, but they're free printable, so just print more as you need. Now, one of the major tricks when dealing with this felt, I'm going to cut them both layers, but the first thing I'm going to do, I've folded it. So I'm going to fold it in half, and I want to cut this fold out, and that's going to keep the layers from shifting around. So you just fold that like that, cut that, then simply take your template shape, put that right on top of there, and if you want, you could put a few straight pins to keep things from moving around. You're going to be cutting right along the edge, so don't put the pin right near the cutting area. Like that for some of your bigger pieces, okay? And then I'm just going to take my big shears and begin cutting around. And I'm cutting through the paper and both layers of the felt. The local scissor sharpener is going to really appreciate this technique, I guarantee it. When you get into the corners, kind of go slow and try to roll your felt through the scissor as you're closing the blade. Come back to the end and close the blade as you roll it around the corners. Now the key is you're cutting both pieces at once. So even if you're not perfectly on the line, both pieces should be the same size and same match. Now we're just going to unpin. And one of the things you may want to do is you may want to take your turkey heads and immediately separate them and flip them so they're opposites. We need one for the right side of the head and one for the left side of the head. The next piece we're going to sew on is going to be the wattle. And the wattle lays right in the opening here, the arch. And I just basically set it in place. Most of this is going to be done through top stitching. And then I'm also watching this joint here. I don't want it sitting on top of the bird too much because we're actually going to come back in and stuff this later. So the wattle is going to pop up just a little bit above the turkey head, and we're just going to run a line of stitching across there. And I've already done that for you, so let me show you what that looks like. So there's that line of stitching that goes through there, and we do that first, and then we're going to do the very similar step to the beak. And now the beak kind of lays on here, so that you can kind of see that the tips of the beak come back in and touch the tips of the black thread. And let me show you how I'm going to sew this one down. I'm using a standard straight stitch. This is not free motion. This is just regular piecing. I've got my needle down on the corner so I can pivot. So I'm going around what would have been the back of the beak. And then, because the beak will get stuffed, but the wattle will not, we're going to actually stitch and do a cut thread right here, so that now when that's done, you can see I started at the top of the beak where it meets the wattle, came down, pivot, pivot, and back to the edge. And you're going to do that for both sides of the turkey. And then you're going to go ahead and start getting ready for your eyes. Okay, so I have assembled one of these already. Remember, we have our opposites. The first eye, I'm basically going to just sew into position. But one of the things I'm watching out for is when I'm doing this, I want about my first knuckles worth, or my first joint on my fingers, distance down from the top and around. We're actually going to sew these at the end right sides together. So we need a seam allowance perimeter is what I'm trying to say there for us. So I stitch my first eye on kind of willy-nilly, wherever it lands. But then the second one, to make sure it comes on perfect, I'm going to take and put the two pieces of the head together, like you see it here. And then I'm feeling where this one goes. So then I'm going to bring it around, and I'm literally just kind of looking from the top on both sides, lining them up. And then I'll also take the black part, and I'm kind of lining the black pieces up. And then once I've got this, I basically don't let go of the one that's about to be stitched. Take this one, set it aside, back under the sewing machine, and we're going to start by sewing the black pupil down first, because that's sewing from the center. That's going to keep everything from moving. And now I'm just taking a few stitches. I lift my presser foot, my needles down, take a few stitches, and I'm just going to work my way all the way around the outside of that. You can't see the threads at all in the black, so don't worry if you don't do the perfect job. The white will be a little more crucial, so this is a good place to warm up. And then grab your little scissors out, and we're just going to trim away these extra threads, the jump stitches. There. Okay, now next step, we are laying these bird heads right sides together, like you see. And now I'm going to stitch up and around all the way to the end. I'll talk you through that as I go. I usually start at the back of the head, actually. And if these pieces don't line up perfect, maybe your beak's not exactly the same on both sides, it's okay, because we're going to stuff this. So we're going to line the edges up as we sew and not worry about what happens in the middle of the project. And I've got about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm kind of eyeballing it as I go. And I've started on the back, and I'm working my way up and around the back of the neck, over the top of his head. These are such fun projects to make. I just love doing them. Okay, and at this point, I'm kind of now looking more at what's going to happen with my beak and my wattle. Maybe I should have said the turkey's beak and wattle. Okay, now listen close. What I'm doing is I'm going to go up over the wattle, and I'm going to go around the orange of the beak to the tip of the beak. From the tip of the beak, I'm going to pivot back around, and I'm heading back to the union where the wattle and the beak meet. So right in there, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pivot, and now I'm going to sew around the wattle. Almost there. I am not stitching the wattle to the neck right now. I want to make sure those stay separate. I come around, I stop and pivot. Now I can totally reorganize. Now I'm going to be sewing down the front side of the neck. And you probably want to backstitch at the end to make sure everything holds nice and tight, because it's going to get a little bit of play each holiday. Needle up. Okay, so that comes out like that. And then I reach in here and I literally start poking the head through till you can see the eyes. And then here comes the beak. And the beak, I have had a couple of different challenges with. I find that I can get my finger in there, and every now and again, and you're gonna laugh because I just did it again, I didn't quite get both layers stitched. So there's my finger, right? And I thought that might be happening. Now here's the easy fix. You just tuck it right back in and everything else is secured, okay? And what happened in there is I was looking from one side and not the other, so now I'm gonna flip the bird over. The beak and the wattle are the only little tricky spots, and I think tricky is definitely an exaggeration there. So let's just get that stitched a little bit better for us. There we go. Let's see if it worked this time. I'm gonna pop it out. When I first started making these, if you're looking real close around the set, they're everywhere because I made several samples to get it right the first time. It was quite a challenge. Okay, now what I need to do is find myself something like the purple thing. The purple thing is gonna go up inside and we can poke the wattle out the bottom. And if I can get to the top of the beak, I can poke that out through the top. And I'm kind of working each piece at a time to get to it, and then it'll magically just pop through. Then you can kind of get your fingernail and start to tug. It's a tight little opening we made in there. But it's the perfect size pieces. So I have to assume. And that's the funny thing, like I said, I decided to remake all of this because my wife made hers in 3rd grade and it's seen better days. And so I had to create this, but I didn't have the beak to work with. So all of this is kind of our custom recreation. But once we have it all like this, then you're just gonna grab yourself a cool bag of stuffing, right? Take your stuffing, and believe it or not, it's gonna probably take almost this much. But what I did is I took, and first with my thumbs, I start pushing the stuffing in, right, like I'm doing. And then you go up into here, and then you can come around and you can use your finger, and you're just gonna stuff the beak and not the wattle. So the wattle lays a little flatter. Then you can take that purple thing and you can make sure that your stuffing gets all the way to the tip of the beak. Just like you like it there. Okay, use your fingers to massage it into the right shape. And then we can put a little bit more stuffing up inside. Give it some nice body. And then the final is to check it for our display. Find yourself a beautiful pineapple. And in the middle of Hamilton, Missouri, this time of year wasn't easy, ladies and gentlemen. So there's our pineapple we've got. And this little turkey is gonna lay right on that edge like that. And you can see I've overstuffed my bird today. Take some of that stovetop back out. And we are ready to decorate for the rest of our holiday feast. And in all seriousness, thank you so very much for being a part of our man sewing experience. We have had the best time ever so far, and we are just getting warmed up. So have yourself a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time at Man Sewing.